this will be a Rhino guide. I'll jump in straight away and just show off the gear I was using for Baneclaw, since I've been getting a lot of questions about it, and because I'm guessing 95% of the people watching this will only want to see the Baneclaw gear. After this is done, I'll go over some specifics a bit more, and again, as for all my videos, just how I like to play the Rhino, or how I like to do it, not how it has to be done. So yeah, this was before the patch that fixed that you couldn't unequip secondaries, so I have a white secondary equipped, tier 1, just to as little power as possible, since I am quite power starved in this build. Same goes for explosive rounds, could have been anything, I wasn't planning on using it, so yeah, if I could not have used that ability, I would have just left the slot open. Servos, just tanked tier white, or tier 1 white, also again just saving power. Using jump jets, these could also have been tier 1 white, since yeah, who cares, it's a stationary fight. Using my standard plating that I'm using for pretty much everything. Resilient plating, yeah, pretty much same there, just standard. Tossed on a heavy armor, chosen just for safety precaution, nothing special. Didn't really need it, but why not? So for the weapon, I was using a chosen laser MG. In the video you will see I'm talking about the Baneclaw video again. You'll see I'm not using alt fire. The reason for that is because I don't think you can headshot with the alt fire, and since headshotting in Baneclaw is quite easy since his head is huge, and it adds I think it's 1.5% damage or something like that, I'm not sure on the mechanics. It's I didn't feel it was worth using it. That and another thing, I'm not sure how this the alt fire works together with turret mode, which I was using. The alt fire, I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's something like increases attack speed by 50% but reduces damage by 30%, or something like that. It's a net gain of 20 or 30% DPS, something like that, which is gained by increasing the rate of fire. But I did some slight tests with turret mode, which increases rate of fire by quite a bit, and I found that it didn't add up, so I was unsure if they actually stacked correctly or how they stacked. So by my calculations, I wouldn't have gained a lot of DPS by using alt fire. Plus, if you factor in that I wouldn't be able to get headshots, and that I would have to be closer to Baneclaw, causing not myself, since I would be using turret mode, which makes me stationary and I think totally immune to knockback. Yeah, let's say immune to knockback. But for the dread field, I'll go over that a bit later. I wanted to have as many creeps as possible close to me, so the creeps will still get knocked back by Baneclaw. So if you go further out from Baneclaw, you avoid the knockback, or the creeps will avoid the knockback. So that's the reason behind why I use primary fire instead of alt fire. So how does it all work? The insane damage, the 300 plus K DPS that you can see in the video, is due to the dread field. I'm using a chosen variant because the chosen has pretty much double damage bonus compared to a crafted, and that's the damage component on this crafted is purple. Probably a higher quality and than the Chosen 903 quality. So I'm using a Chosen because of that. Since the duration and radius is pretty much the same, it's not any big difference there, so it doesn't really matter. So how does the Dreadfield work? I think it's a bit of a mechanic bug. I think it's doing something that it's not supposed to do. Mainly it's stacking up on itself, which means if I just stand still and shoot with this weapon with primary fire, I should hit for 291 damage. If I use the Dreadfield and have one enemy close to me, that should add 65% damage. If I have two enemies, it should theoretically add 130% damage. This is how I think the ability was intended. What I think is actually happening is that it's not really doing that. I think it's first adding the 65%. Let's say that puts me on 480 damage, something like that. 480 damage per shot. Can that be right? No, it can't. Whatever, let's say 400 damage per shot. And then if I have another creep, it will add 65% to that 400 damage. Add another creep, it just keeps multiplying like until you get insane numbers. You'll see mainly 29k hits on Baneclaw, and I think that's bugged because I think that's the actual max damage that the game will show. According to my calculations, I'm hitting way harder than that. Because with 29k hits, Baneclaw would not be... he wouldn't go down in 5 seconds. So yeah, probably hitting harder, which is really silly. So yeah, I have a base. If we talk about attack speed, the rate of fire on this is 180 millisecond burst, which if we put in 1 in the calculator and divide it by 0.18, that means I'm firing 5.5 roughly rounds per second. If you then add in turret mode, which is a 55% increased fire rate, the turret mode, I can say, is all the stats, the recharge, the shield, the damage bonus and the accuracy are all tanked, except for the rate of fire bonus. There's 2 reasons for this. I have another one, but this one has the damage bonus buffed, but it uses too much power. And since I'm already getting so insanely high damage bonus from the Dreadfield, I felt that yeah, the rate of fire was enough. Plus, when I crafted this, the first one, the damage bonus wasn't actually it didn't work at the time for the Rhino's laser HMG. So yeah, I'm still using that one for the video. So we add on the 55% increase, and that means I'm firing 8.6 shots per second for well over 30,000, or not well over, but should be somewhere around 36,000, I think. Considering I'm probably missing some shots and hitting Baneclaw with some shots, that would land me on 310k DPS. And yeah, Baneclaw goes down in 5 seconds. Let's say I'm hitting 300k DPS, that's 1.5 million damage. Baneclaw has 1.5k or 1.5 million HP, so yeah, probably hitting for more than the actual numbers on the video, which is kinda just insane. So I thought I would, yeah, that wraps up the Baneclaw part. Kinda boring, but I have been getting questions about it, so I'm gonna go to the printer and just, yeah, if you're interested, I'll give you my views on the Core Dreadnought and the Rhino abilities. I may do another video later on Arsenal, not sure. But yeah, starting out with the Core Dreadnought. Absorption Bomb is an ability that is it's tricky. It has a base, or I won't say base, it's a static charge time of 4 seconds, and since it has that charge time of 4 seconds, that makes it really hard to use it effectively. And there are several other reasons why it's kind of hard to use it. So yeah, first, what does the ability actually do? It makes you almost immune to damage. It reduces roughly 90, 95, maybe a bit more, 97% of all incoming damage. So it's like a really strong heavy armor for 4 seconds. And if you're on low HP and couple that with the resilient plating, which will heal you if you're on low HP, you're pretty much taking no damage. So you can say it's making you pretty much damage immune, depending on where you are or how much damage you're taking. Something that I did learn the hard way experimenting with it is does not reduce damage of fall damage. Took me like 10 deaths or something to realize that before I gave up crying. So yeah, Absorption Bomb, it's a fun ability, has some situational uses, like you can abuse it in BWA for speedrunning siphons, which I'm using it in BWA for soloing Central sometimes, just for fun. It's not really helping with the times, but it's quite fun to do. Basically what you can do is with a strong heavy armor, which has a positive, I'll go over heavy armor later, but yeah, that has over 100% damage reduction. The over 100% will actually heal you, so you dive into the melding, you drop down in HP, once you're almost dead you press the heavy armor, you still keep taking damage from the melding, but that damage will heal you up. So by the end of the heavy armor you're gonna be on full HP. The siphons doesn't actually spawn until a few seconds in, so if you're diving really ridiculously early, you can fly into the siphon before it actually spawns. Shoot the siphon down when it spawns, and then when you're about to die, you go Absorption Bomb, and that will keep you alive until the melding has fully receded. I'm not recommending anyone to do this. Okay, it's easier now with the glider changes in the patch, but if you want to try it, expect quite a few deaths. It's a fun ability. You can use it in certain situations. For example, if you jump into lava and press it, you're pretty much damage immune, but the lava is still hurting you, so you're gonna be doing a massive Absorption Bomb. Same thing if you use it in the melding, massive Absorption Bomb. It has a damage cap. I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but basically it has a combined, it has like a pool of damage. So if you're hitting like 50 mobs, you will hit the damage cap, so the mobs will get hit for less the more of them get hit. So I'm not sure about these numbers, so I'm just gonna say it's 100,000 total. So if you hit 50 mobs with it, you're gonna hit each one for 2,000, something like that. The bad part about it, and I would really love for that to be craftable, is the radius, because the radius is really small, and this is one of the reasons why I choose not to use the ability unless I'm playing around, because like I said, you have to stand there for 4 seconds, can't move, and then the radius is small, so actually hitting your target is meh. The Accord Mortar Launcher. Yeah, it replaces your normal weapon, and okay, it's good for AoE, but you're a Rhino. Dreadfield is God mode, so yeah, we won't be using that. Especially, like I said, since it replaces your normal weapon, yeah, it will do some damage, but it's mainly for the splash damage. But no, just stick with the Dread Field if you're gonna use an HKM. Explosive rounds. One change with the latest patch, or I don't know if this was intended, I don't know if it was active before, but as the tooltip says, loads in a special ammo, causes blah 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 explosive AoE damage. So yeah, the tooltip clearly states that it's supposed to only work on your weapon. It currently doesn't, or it does work on your weapon, and it does give a slight AoE. The AoE radius is quite small, but yeah, it helps a bit. But what it does right now, it works like an overcharge, so it affects all your abilities as well, which means it increases your Sundering Wave or Repulsive Blast, which is quite nice. So not really using it a lot on Rhino, because I feel Rhino has other options. Could find uses for it, will probably find uses for it. It's a really, really strong ability, especially right now. It's so strong, so if you like it, use it. I can say I'm using it on my arsenal for speedrunning BWA when I actually feel like doing that. And since it applies to the arsenal HKM, that HKM just gets insane, since the arsenal HKM is pretty strong, and if you add in another 33% damage from the explosive rounds, it gets ridiculously strong. The Siphons are dead before you even look at them. Heavy armor. I love heavy armor. I have no love for the crafted heavy armors. Tier 4 crafted heavy armor will, if you max it out, you can get up to, I think it's around 81% damage reduction. I haven't tested it, won't test it. Because it's not over 100%, I won't use it, especially since a crafted good heavy armor will be ridiculously mass heavy. So yeah, I use Chosen. The drawback of Chosen heavy armor is, especially since the patch nerf, where they increased the amount of cores on Chosen weapons or Chosen drops, and they also increased the mass and the power, and the mass was already really high on heavy armor, Chosen heavy armor, high tier and high level quality. So the new ones, purple Chosen heavy armor is like 1000 mass using 4 cores. It's barely usable. So yeah, I use the old ones. I stockpiled quite a few, and when those run out, I'll probably switch frame. No, just kidding. But yeah, heavy machine gun. You're Rhino. You have a laser. Enough talk. Repulsor blast. The Chosen variant of Repulsor Blast is, compared to the crafted one, it's a really high cooldown, high damage ability. So it does have its uses, because even a white Chosen Repulsor Blast does a considerable amount of damage. I think it's around 1.4k. And if you couple that with a Sundering Wave, which increases the damage, and yeah, God forbid you couple it with a Dread Field or explosive rounds, yeah, it's gonna blow. But I find that Repulsor Blast has one use, and that's if you craft it with a low cooldown. That, together with Sundering Wave, means you can either rotate them separately, so you have a pretty big AoE attack. 7.4 meter radius is quite big, same with Sundering Wave. So if you alternate them, you basically have a big AoE attack every 9 seconds. So for thumping, for taking out all those small spiders, the flyers with the annoying hitboxes, really nice. So having 2 of those crafted, like I made this one and the Sundering Wave, really quite heavy. It's heavy on the power especially, which yeah, suffers a bit. So I chose to use a few cores, 3 extra cores in each of them, and I skipped the HKM because HKM on thumping is just overkill because it's, yeah, shit just dies too fast. So Repulsor Blast, the crafted ones, does have uses. I'm gonna say it's more limited. The chosen low quality ones, they can be used in multiple situations. If nothing else, they can be like a placeholder for your third ability. So you're using Sundering Wave and Heavy Armor in BWA. Okay, you're starved on power and you don't want to go too much in mass. Toss in a chosen Tier 4 white quality. 120 mass, 60 power for the old ones. Still does a considerable knockback and damage. Might save you, might help you do stuff faster. I'll skip Resilient Plating for now and talk about that together with the Rhino Plating, since they mix together. Turret mode. A underused, really fun, but sadly, yeah, it's been fixed, so it's actually working, but it's still, according to Red 5, I haven't had time to test it yet, but it's bugged. One sec. And the bug is that every time that the shield procs, which is every 6 seconds, rumor has it that you take durability loss on like all your items. I personally haven't noticed it, but I have only checked it against my chosen HKM. And I know that one hasn't taken damage, but it might be that it only affects some of your ability slots, but since I'm using a lot of old chosen stuff and I can't really keep track of each durability, I won't risk using it unless it's for like making a video or we're trying for a record, something. I don't know where I would use it except for Baneclaw, and I'm not going Baneclaw anymore. But yeah, it's it can be a quite useful ability if you this is crafted, maxed fire rate, maxed damage bonus, and I mean 55% fire rate and 22% damage bonus. That's quite a bit, so if you can find a use for it, if you're not scared of the durability loss, then please try it out. It's can be a really awesome ability. Like if you're squad thumping, I can see it being really strong. Just get a raptor to toss a power field on you while you're standing in that and just, yeah, go nuts. Rhino. I'll talk about the charge absolutely last, because yeah, I want to be outside of the printer to show it, I think. So, Dreadfield. We talked a bit about Dreadfield. In my other crafting video you can see that the energy drain is bugged, so won't talk more about that. The charge speed, how HKM charge speed works, also covered in the other video, so I won't talk about it here. I'll just say I love the Dreadfield, and if you don't love it, you haven't used it enough, and you haven't used a quality Tier 4 with decent quality, because it makes the frame. It's why you play the Rhino, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, okay, you have a laser and that's awesome, but the Dreadfield is, it's god mode. So yeah, play around with it, try it until you love it, otherwise quit the game. I haven't personally crafted any Tier 4 laser MG. This is because I'm using the chosen variants. The difference between the chosen and the difference between chosen and this one. Okay, I'm not really sure about this. Yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, the chosen ones fire slower, which means it will still have the same DPS as a high tier crafted one, or high quality crafted, but since it fires slower, your ammo is just gonna last that much longer, and plus I like seeing the bigger numbers. I think that's just, it's enjoyable, so that's why I'm using the chosen. I'm not personally a fan of, I don't feel the need to rush up and use alt fire like a lot of rhinos do. This is because, yeah, you have to reload a lot more often, and you can't headshot with it, or I can't headshot with it. Someone may be able to do it, and I'm a complete noob, but fuck it, I rarely use it. I use it when in combination with Sundering Wave sometimes, just because I have that added damage, so then I really want to take advantage of that for like those 3-4 seconds while it's up. But other than that, no. I'm gonna stick to the regular fire, steady rate. With the chosen weapon, you can fire all day before you have to reload, so it's quite nice. Personal shield. I like the idea of the ability, but when I tried making one, the absorption component was bugged. I hope, because it on tier 3 it went up to like 200, so yeah, my interest quit there, because 200 is nothing, especially if you're a dreadnought going in taking massive damage. Much rather use this is the Rhino passive, so much rather use the resilient plating. Sundering Wave, yes, I know I skipped a few, but I'll skip back to them. Sundering Wave, awesome ability. I'll show the one I use together with my Repulsor Blast. Again, it had basically the same stats as the Repulsor Blast, except for damage reduction is instead knockback. So, and I crafted this one pretty much exactly the same way. So maxed out damage, maxed out recharge, maxed out radius, and for this I actually tanked the damage reduction, and that's because I'm using it for killing masses, or yeah, either killing masses of small guys or taking aggro off the thumper or off an objective or off other people. So the damage reduction slash amplification I didn't feel was that important, since especially it costs a lot of mass and I wanted to keep the mass down on that frame, or that build, so that's the reason why. Also something that's new in the latest big patch is that the damage amplification is now actually applied to the Sundering Wave when you hit it. So as you can see, the damage on this is 987, but with the 22% damage amplification it actually hits for 1.2k, and then you can add some power allocation to it. So I'm actually regretting tanking the damage reduction because of that, but yeah, I won't craft a new one, so it's something to keep in mind. Both the damage and the damage amplification affect your end damage on the Sundering Wave currently. This is the Sundering Wave I'm using for BWA, I'll check that a bit later. Gravity Field Grenade. Haven't researched this to tier 4 yet. It's been bugged for quite some time. It's working now. I'm not 100% sure exactly how it works. On paper, looks like a great ability. I mean, you can get the movement reduction up to over 100%, basically stopping enemies in their tracks when they're attacking, or when they're trying to rush you. The effect radius, I think, on tier 4 goes up to something silly over like 13 or 17 meters. It's something like huge. It's like, yeah, you're dropping down a house. It's awesome. Plus it sucks in bullets and just, yeah, it's basically it's like a giant wall that freezes everything, stops the bullets and increases the damage. It's awesome. It doesn't fit my playstyle, however, since that would actually require me to stop, and I like to keep moving. So great ability if it's your style. I mean, combine that with a turret mode and yeah, you could probably go really nuts. So yeah, if that's your playstyle, if you like to play it a bit slower, stopping at times to like really clear out areas or whatever, try out Gravity Field Grenade with turret mode. I'm sure it will do wonders for you. Turret mode has like no cooldown, and you can craft this one, the Gravity Grenade, to get a pretty low cooldown. It will be quite heavy on mass, I'm sure, but if you mainly spec those two abilities, then yeah, just go for it. Try it out. Might be awesome. Post a video, because I'd love to see it. So, then we come to plating and resilient plating. Rhinos have the least amount of HP of all the dreads, which doesn't really matter because they still have almost let's say 3.9k HP with a maxed health component, or purple health component, which is still a lot. And it's more, I'm not gonna say more than you need, because you can never have enough, but it's a lot. It will keep you alive. How I like to craft it is, and this goes for all the dreads, because on all the dreads I use resilient plating. So if you craft both of these purple, both these components, the health regen and the health, you'll end up with a beast of like 700, 800 mass something, which will force you to use, if you want to be able to actually move after that, you need to toss in like 4 cores more, 5 cores to be able to use it, and that means you can't use an HKM and you'll have to tank your abilities. I don't want to do that, so I'm sticking to just maxing out the health, because a big health pool synergizes really well with resilient plating. We'll go over that later. And then I just completely tank the health regen. So as you can see on mine, I have, it's pretty tanked. So it's a green mid-range item, because this is maxed, this is minimized, so it ends up on around 500. And why do I want to have the even though I don't need 3.9k HP, I don't actually see my health as 3.9k, and this is because of the resilient plating, which, as we all know, starts healing once you hit a certain threshold. So the base is 48%, and the ones I usually use are 76, 77%. I have a couple of different, just with different amount of cores, depending on my other gear, just to switch in and out of. Like I said, you can survive quite well with lower HP. You can tank your plating a bit. You can also use one of these. This is just a white quality resilient plating. So you see the mass on this is 175, which is pretty much nothing compared to one of these. You have to note that these are using cores, so they should actually be higher. It's like 450-ish. So yeah, I mean, this one gives 52%, and 52% threshold, that will keep you alive, and it will make you light and fast. So for Ares builds, you can keep that option in mind. I don't know if this stat is currently bugged, but if it is, or if it's working, or whatever, I don't need it, so I won't test it, because as it is, resilient plating is strong enough. So the healing actually has a value that will go up over 1, but you can't see it. You can see it on ThumbDB, but I'm not sure exactly how that works, so I won't go into detail on it, and I won't use it. What I can tell you is how mine works, at least, is like this 77 threshold, resilient plating with healing 1, so it's maxed threshold pretty much, and tanked healing. The threshold starts on 77%, self-explanatory, but it also heals me for 77 per tick. So, and that's the important part. So if you tank it, bear in mind, you're not only tanking when the healing's starting, you're also tanking how much you're gonna get healed. So this is actually a severe reduction, but you do save quite a bit of mass, and if you're only doing Ares, or if you're not doing crazy stuff. If you play it a bit more safely, or you just want a bit more challenge, then go for a lower tire or lower quality. It will do the job, it just won't do it quite as well. Now over to charge, one of the absolutely most underused abilities. And this factors in to the fact that it's semi-broken, in my opinion. But it does have uses if you use it really correctly. But you have to build your entire frame around using the charge. So yeah, I do have a charge. Let's see, just gonna switch out some stuff. Let's put on it's right there. So this one I made before I realized that they had actually implemented a movement speed cap. I did not know about it. I'll first explain the actual ability, which I will do in the printer because I'm a retard. So yeah, charge. Speed bonus 41.41 meters per second, just the base stats of the Tire 4 ability. Should not be in meters per second, it's actually supposed to be percent, because if it was a speed bonus, yeah, you'd be on around 50 meters per second, and that's basically as fast as a Tiger Claws or Assault's Afterburner, which is insanely fast, and for that duration, that would be just, you'd be all over the place. Recharge, self-explanatory, except for one part, which I'll touch on later. Here are two really ridiculous stats. These are meant for PvP, I'm fairly sure. The charge has a passive like snare built into it, so it's supposed to slow enemies when you get close to them while charge is active. I have not seen it actually work, and no one else has confirmed it actually working in PvE, so I'm gonna just assume that the snare component is broken in it, and even if it wasn't, I still wouldn't use it, because why do I need to slow enemies in PvE? I mean, they're slow enough. It's just, yeah, if you're that close, just laser them to the face, problem solved. The other component is something that will confuse a lot of people, or yeah, people will craft it and then get really disappointed, which is quite understandable, because this duration stat is not the charge duration. The charge duration is a static value of 4 seconds, so you can't add to those 4 seconds, but neither, yeah, you don't have to as well. I mean, you don't have to pull this up to 4 seconds, which means you can save mass. This is actually the snare duration. So what this means is that's two stats that they're just completely worthless, which means you can tank those two stats, radius and duration, leaving two more stats, the recharge and the speed bonus. I'll first touch on the recharge, because as I said, you can get that down really low to around 13 seconds, slightly under 13 seconds with purple quality stuff. 13 seconds is low, but compared to like explosive rounds or overcharge or the other things that I can't remember, immolate, those abilities their cooldowns or their recharges start when the ability ends. For charge it is not so. So it's active for the static 4 seconds, it has a 13-second recharge, which means it has a 9-second downtime. And this fact, coupled with the fact that you will be able to tank a few of these stats, will make the weight actually manageable and an ability that you can actually use. And here is why. you see the speed bonus on 41. Let's say it's, if you make it white, like a low quality, like a 50, which is, let's be realistic, that's about as low as we can get. Yes, you can probably get lower, I don't know what stats this uses. You can get this down to around 10, maybe 9, but okay, let's say this still will go up to like 43%. Remember how I said there is a movement speed cap? Like for example right now I'm running on 8.35, I'll reduce my weight a bit just to be sure. Here. Let's remove that. 115%. Yeah, that's nice. 1 second. So yeah, my move speed right now is 9.5 meters per second, and my charge I think adds 66%, which would technically land me on roughly 16 meters per second, right? Yeah. Sadly the cap is 13.7, which is kinda sad. But, so yeah, those extra 3 meters per second or whatever too are wasted. But, and also, I'll do it one more time and check the cooldown now. Pressing the ability, the cooldown starts ticking down. And yeah, the ability actually ended on around 8 seconds there. So yeah, that means it's up. You can keep it up 2/3 at a time, or 1/3 at a time. And that's quite a bit. So, what does it mean? If you make a charge and you tank the radius, tank the duration, tank the speed bonus, but max the recharge, you'll still have optimal recharge. And here's where the math comes in. If you're on a sprint speed of 9.6-ish meters per second, just gonna double check that. And let's say you have around 43% on the move speed bonus, that will land you on 13.6, 13.7 meters per second, aka the max movement speed. And 9.6 meters per second sprint speed is not something that's actually hard to do. If you have tier 4 servos crafted white, remove that, whoops, wrong button, removing that. Tier 4 crafted white servos, that means you have 5.4 meters per second. Dreadnought has base movement speed of 2 meters per second. We covered this in the other general crafting whatever video, which lands you on 7.4 meters walking speed. Add in the 20% sprint bonus, then you're on 8.88 meters per second. And then let's say you're playing a pretty lightweight frame, and if you're gonna charge is mainly, in my opinion, used for Ares running, so you're gonna want to be a pretty lightweight frame. So let's say you're on 110 movement speed, so 8.88 times 1.1 equals 9.7 meters per second, and that's something that's quite manageable. You can probably even go higher, like say you have crafted servos with over 6 movement speed, and you can still have that 1.1, which will put you over the max speed limit, but it will still make you really fast. So what this means is, since you can tank 3 of the 4 abilities, 1, 2, 3 of the 4 abilities, you only have to actually focus on the recharge. Then yeah, it's a low cost, still valuable ability, and like I said, it's up to 1/3 of the time. So it's something that I would recommend trying out if you haven't, Because yeah, I know a lot of people were pissed about it, and I can quite understand that, but and I was too when I tried it first, but it actually grows on you. Now I find it to be a, if not good ability, I still find it situationally worthwhile to consider. So yeah, that's it for all the abilities. Now how to put them together. So yeah, like I said, we have plenty of different options. Oh, one more thing about the charge. I forgot to say that if you're using if you're thinking, oh, but I can get like 10.4 meters per second run speed or sprint speed just by having good servos and a nice speed multiplier, then congratulations. But so yeah, you're thinking I can use a crafted tier 1 instead, because that will use almost no mass and it has a base stat of 30 percent. So that will land you on the cap for a really low mass cost. The problem with that is it will still have like a 30 seconds with, yeah, let's say 25 seconds recharge after you subtract the duration, which means it's not up 1/3 of the time, which means it's not that good. You can of course use it, but I would not recommend it. So yeah, since we talked about all the other abilities kind of in depth, I won't go over them too much right here. I'm just gonna put together some example builds of what I like using for a few different setups. Yeah, as you can see, I like my heavy armors, so these are all, I think one or two of these are pre-patch or post-patch, which means pretty much worthless. I think one of these are. Yeah, like you can see this one, 968 mass, uses 4 cores and 79 power. This is pretty much unusable. I mean, you have to be really fucking manly to try and pull this one off. But yeah, so these are mainly all pre-patch, which means they are pretty strong, and I likes them. They're my babies. Yeah, third ability. Some kind of light, heavy armor, light, quotation marks, that put me on way too many cores, of course. Let's use one of those. And let's drop down. This is why I like to have many different options of gear, so like yeah, I switch in 2 items that uses a lot of cord, and I can just switch out the plating, or the HKM, and like switch out my jump jets, switch the resilient plating, and boom, I have enough cores. Yeah, let's make optimal use of the weapon. Kinda. Alright, so this is a frame. It's still pretty lightweight, or I'm gonna say really lightweight, should be a bit less, let's say it like that. So yeah, it has decent single target damage, because a Rhino single target damage with a blue weapon is always decent. And like we touched on before, 18-second cooldown, 18-second cooldown, basically a 9-second rotation, or you can combo them for extra damage if you're doing a squad free thumper or whatever. Some chosen heavy armor just so, yeah, so you don't have to be careful. I mean, it's your safety net. Press it and you win the game. That's basically it. You can't die, so just go nuts. Keeping the rest kind of lightweight. This is something that I would mainly use for thumping, for protecting stuff like, yeah, pulling aggro, whatever. Let's put on some BWA gear. This is, for me, kind of standard gear. Switching it out. Yeah, let's go heavy mode. boom, down 70% speed multiplier. BWA, you spend 95% of your moving time, or the time moving where it actually matters. You'll be on a glider. That's the reason why I can afford to be super fat and just don't care. So yeah, you have decent jump jets. I won't get up to the high point with these, but I kinda depend on my squad when doing it, so I don't actually need to. I'm just here to pop my dread field with a massive chosen armor, so I can go balls deep in the melding with a chosen laser. That's better chosen laser, and just go nuts and just destroy that Sif. And I can do it solo. I can do it with this build. I can do it faster than two people playing other frames, because Rhino is just that strong for taking down Siphons. So here comes the chosen Repulsor Blast. Like you see, I'm starved on power, so just tossing this one in here. Okay, it was a bit less damage than I remember, but still, it's 1k damage. Almost. For very little power and mass. I mean, 120 power, 6 or 120 mass, 60 power is quite affordable. And then you also have to factor in that the dread field will you have that activated on the Siphon, so the damage goes up from the dread field. Will go up because you pop Sundering Wave before. This Sundering Wave is meant more for BWA, so it has a long recharge because you only need to use it once. Radius doesn't matter, damage doesn't matter because yeah, it's mainly there for the damage reduction, so trying to save on as many stats as possible. So yeah, the Repulsor Blast will hit for over 2k, and for 120 mass and 60 power, that's worth it. So that's in my opinion, good use of a chosen item over a crafted one. You can tank, or you can have it low and just tank the stats and still have it be useful. So what else do we want to do? Let's say we're going Ares, or just generally messing around. Let's toss on something. I'm gonna skip HKM for that because I don't actually need it. Probably won't use that because it's too expensive. Actually use one of these cheaper ones, since yeah, who cares on Ares. Yeah, you have a lot of power left over. You're still pretty fast, and with okay, this charge is, like I said, too strong, so you could probably drop down the mass on this one by drop down the course and mass by quite a bit. So yeah, it's not optimal, but for Ares, you're fast, you have Sundering Wave, you have one that hits kinda hard. Could probably use something better than that. Let's toss in explosive rounds, because why not, because YOLO. So yeah, you're fast, you have a charge, you have explosive rounds, and you have a knockback for when you, pop it together with explosive rounds, and on Ares missions this will clear a smaller room. And you don't need to have sustained damage. You just need to kill a little bit to get to the objectives. And since you're a dreadnought with strong resilient plating, yeah, you're fine. You're set. I'm not gonna bore you anymore, so I'll just drop it. And yeah, like I said, if anyone can do some gravity field grenade videos, I'd love to see it because I want to see it in action. Take care. Bye.